Hello everyone, I'm not gonna lie, I do not have a proper intro to this video because I really have no way of telling how to intro it in the first place. I'm basically just gonna be talking about how I feel like Hagaromo is all hype. Not to say he would start losing to people like part 1 characters or some shit like that. Like, he's definitely still strong, but he's definitely overhyped to the large majority of people who watch Naruto, and I can see it, you know, it's due to his face value perception. He's kind of viewed in the series as a god, so I could see, you know, people thinking he's got like this god tier power when it's really just not the case. I don't think he's all that strong, and I'll just start getting into why. The first issue I have with Hagaromo's power is people saying he scales to Kaguya. Now, I don't really have an issue with saying he scales to the Kaguya he fought to some extent, because he was able to tag her with his brother Hamura and eventually, you know, get her into the seal and seal her away. That's fine. My particular issue is with how strong exactly that Kaguya was. So if we take the anime for this arc, it's actually weirdly different than it is in the manga, and Hagaromo comes out not as strong at all. So in the anime, Hagaromo and Hamura both fight Kaguya and the Jubi at the same time, which is extremely weird. And then they don't seal the Ghetto statue in the moon like they do in the manga. They seal Kaguya herself, and Hagaromo never becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. So it's a bit strange. If you go with the anime, he's like this vague level of weakened Kaguya, because Kaguya in this fight is not even using her like dimension warping abilities or anything like that. So it's like a severely weakened Kaguya fighting Hagaromo and Hamura. So then that essentially just gets us nowhere. Like, they scale to this unknown Kaguya who we can't link to anyone reasonably anyway. We just have no idea what type of feat or level of power this is at display. Then he fights the Jubi, and the battle supposedly lasts for months. And after the battle lasts for months, he doesn't even seal it inside of himself in the anime. He immediately splits it into 9 Biju. But I like to go with the manga versions of events, and in the manga, Hagaromo does in fact say he sealed the Ten Tails inside of himself, him and Hamura, after they defeated it. We will grant him that he is a Ten Tails Jinchuriki, and he also has the signs of one, which I'll get into later in the video. The next thing I don't like is when people say that Hagaromo scales to Naruto and Sasuke, because he gave both of them half of his power, so the two of them must add up to be Hagaromo. Hagaromo does give Naruto and Sasuke some unquantifiable amount of his power. He actually never says half, he just says that he'll give both Indra and Asura power, that being Naruto and Sasuke, obviously. So the only statement for the half power I could find is the statement from Naruto where he says, "I can feel it clearly even from here, the other half of Super Gramps' power." This can easily just be in reference to Sasuke's shadow seal that Hagaromo gave him, not directly half of Hagaromo's power, and I think that's far more likely anyway. Another thing about this Hagaromo giving them power that I don't like is that it ignores the multiplicative amps that are applied after he gives them the power. I'll get into this a bit later with Sixpaths Sage mode and things like that. I had to talk about that at a later point. Naruto essentially gets power from Hagaromo, and then he multiplies that power by using his Sage mode and his Biju cloaks, things like that. So Hagaromo shouldn't directly scale to him, and Sasuke, he gives power, and Sasuke with that power awakens something that can make him even stronger, that being his Rinnegan, as well as he should be obtaining a bit more hatred, which should make his Sharingan stronger as well. For those people who don't know why the Sharingan getting more hatred should make you in turn stronger, there's a lot to imply this within the series, and then towards the end of the series we get straight up statements from Tobirama, who we know was looking into the secrets of the Sharingan, that hatred does indeed make you stronger. For one, we have Itachi telling Sasuke to constantly hate him, hate me until you get stronger. We have Obito after Sasuke gets in a rage against Danzo and upgrades his Susanoo, saying that Sasuke's rage has gained in power and his body was just simply adapting to it. And then we have the statements from Tobirama. When an individual rises in agony over the loss of a great love or disappointment in himself, a unique chakra gets released inside his or her brain and reacts with the optic nerves, and changes appear in that person's eyes. This phenomenon is called the Sharingan, the eyes that reflect the heart. The Sharingan taps into the power of that person's heart, rapidly increasing his or her strength along with the power of their hate. The deeper the darkness gets, the greater the ocular powers also become, until the person can no longer be stopped. So Sasuke getting a hatred should be making him a bit stronger. The next thing I feel I should bring up is Hagaromo being somewhat comparable in power to Jubi Madara via his own admission. He tells Naruto, "The current Madara is a perfect example. He's become just like Mother. Now no longer Indra's reincarnate. He's obtained Ten Tails power and is getting close to me, and is trying to attain even my mother Kaguya's power." This would imply that Madara and Hagaromo are around the same level of power, Now, I know the immediate issue popping into your head is that, well, Hagaromo is not in his prime. He doesn't have the Jubi anymore. He's weaker in this state, so he shouldn't actually be as strong as Madara when he's in his prime. I'll offer you reasons as to why Hagaromo shouldn't be much weaker in this form, if not weaker at all, but I have to explain something in detail first, and that being the Jubi Jinchuriki and the differences between Sixpaths Sage Mode and Sixpaths Senjutsu. So for one, there is one common trait between all Jubi Jinchuriki, that being these symbols that appear on their back. If we look at Jubito, Jubi Madara, Hagaromo, and Naruto after he obtained all the 9 Biju, they all have this same pattern on their back, symbolizing that they can use Sixpaths Senjutsu. Now, this is not the same thing as Sixpaths Sage Mode. Sixpaths Sage Mode is a mode that in Data Book 4, Naruto is the only known user of. Hagaromo did gift Naruto the form, as said in the Data Book, but he's not listed as a user of it, meaning it's possible Hagaromo can give this form out and just not use it himself. To acquire the same technique's ability, severe training and refining of chakra is needed, or the effect would be too small to make a difference. No matter the suffering that goes against one's steel conviction, one cannot give up. So then, to achieve Samsara and Destiny's guidance, only those who carry these traits will be given power from the Sage of Sixpaths for the first time. The technique was created in hope that people would use it to connect their life force to understand each other, and eventually that the world would attempt to change its way in the long run. This technique is not chosen by ninja to master, it's a technique that chooses ninja. Then it goes on to say that Naruto's sensory ability surpasses Madara even when Madara is the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, and that his Sixpaths Sage Mode just surpasses his Kurama mode from earlier. This form of Naruto, where he's got this cloak on his back, is not actually KCM2 plus Sixpaths Sage Mode. This is his Jubi cloak in Sixpaths Sage Mode. Now, Naruto doesn't have this as an adult, and he doesn't have Sixpaths Senjutsu, which is why he doesn't use his true secret orbs anymore. He really just doesn't have access to them. And this isn't me going back on my last video. I still don't think Naruto and Sasuke are nerfed in terms of power, like I said. So now this leads me back to my point where I say Hagaromo may not be weakened. This is actually a statement from Kishimoto in Data Book 3 in the Q&A section at the back. This question is asked about Gaara, but I'll explain how it applies to Hagaromo once I get done stating it in the specific part that's important. The question is, since the One Tail has been extracted from Gaara, is he unable to control sand? And the answer is, once it's ingrained in you, you can't take anything away, not even sand. The point I'm trying to focus on here is, once it's ingrained in you, you can't take anything away. This would be my point in saying that Hagaromo was the 10 Tails Jinchuriki for so long that his Sixpaths Senjutsu simply became a part of him himself. That's why he has the symbols on his back after he's just a chakra ghost, which is fairly consistent considering he also still has his true secret orbs. And you can even use this to say that it's possible Ashura also became a 10 Tails Jinchuriki, or at least used the power of all the Biju, because when we see a panel of Ashura fighting Indra in the manga, he has truth seeker orbs around his avatar that he's using to battle Indra. So that's why Hagaromo may not exactly be weaker later on in the story, or later on in his life, or life after death, if you will. But that's all I really have for Hagaromo's power. I kind of just want to talk about his hacks now. I will say, having the Rinnegan and his creation of all things ability is extremely good for him. It's an extremely good hacks. I'll explain it for anyone who doesn't understand the ability. Data Book 4 states this ability as the secret jutsu that created all things from naught. And obviously hyperbole because he didn't create Kaguya, you know, she kind of created him. To it, it says yin release, which can create form out of naught, and yang release, which can instill life into that form. Deftly manipulating these two properties, the Sage of Sixpaths, or Sasuke Hagaromo, developed the creation of all things jutsu. He likewise created the 9 bodies of the Biju from 10 Tails Chakra, making them another gift of yin and yang release. Later, the Uchiha clan would tend to inherit the power of the yin release, and the Senju clan would inherit the power of the yang release. This is also what a lot of people like to use to say Hagaromo may be able to apply the effects of Izanagi or Izanami infinitely, which I don't necessarily agree with. Not that I don't agree that Hagaromo could potentially do it, it's if he would actually do it, because those jutsu were created after his life was already over. I know he's been watching over the ninja world, but it doesn't really seem like something Hagaromo would apply in combat to himself. It seems, I guess you could say, out of style for him. So that's my issue with it, although him being able to use it seems perfectly valid to me. We also get a glimpse at creation of all things through Naruto as well, where it's stated that having gained the power of Hagaromo, Naruto was able to perfectly demonstrate the power of yin and yang release, and he created Kakashi Kakashi's new eye. And that's all I really had to say about Hagaromo. Obviously, Hagaromo is still like somewhat of a top tier in Shippuden. He's not losing to someone like Hashirama or something like that. I just felt like when I saw people saying Hagaromo would beat Ishiki from Boruto or Hagaromo would beat up Momoshiki, it was a bit weird. Hagaromo is also stated in his ghost form to just simply be like a mass of chakra, so Momoshiki and Ishiki could possibly just absorb him and just end him that way. But if you like the video, make sure to comment, subscribe. If you disagree with me, definitely tell me. If you feel I missed anything, definitely tell me. And if you like this sort of video and you want me to take a look at other characters who are possibly all hype, just let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to, if people like this enough, I'll put more effort into the next few videos and actually script them out, do a bit more research. This Hagaromo one I just sort of threw together, just like a last minute thing I just kind of wanted to do. Other than that, have a nice day.